Hi, I'm Dayanara Torres, and I'm so excited to be here as we kick off the Leading Ladies of Entertainment Mentorship Program. For the 5th year in a row, the Latin Grammy Cultural Foundation will pair the Latin Recording Academy's Leading Ladies of Entertainment as mentors with the next generation of women in entertainment through this mentorship program. As a proud member of this extraordinary group of women, I know firsthand how meaningful this mentorship program is, as it allows us to share our experience, our wisdom, and our stories in the hope of opening doors for those who are just beginning their journey. Thank you for joining us for the Leading Ladies of Entertainment Mentorship Panel, presented by Open Society Foundations. Today's conversation will be led by Sanz and María Paula Mariño, two of this year's mentees. Their questions will guide this very special discussion with our incredible mentors, including Leading Ladies of Entertainment honorees, our 2017 recipient, Marcella Araica, our 2025 recipient, Paula Kaminsky, Angie Martínez, who was part of the 2020 class of inductees, and Leslie Grace. So get comfortable, pour yourself a cafecito, and let's listen, learn, and be inspired together.
As young professionals, for us, of course, we're like living a lot of these things for the first time. So when you were first breaking into the industry, what surprised you the most about what you were encountering?
I think for me, since I started so young, like I signed my first deal at 16, it was the industry part of it, like not knowing that there were so many different angles to enter the industry, you know? And my parents, God bless them, they've been supportive and still are so supportive. I'm one of 7, big blended family, and I'm the youngest, and they did everything to support me and try and get, you know, all the information they could, but they don't come from the entertainment industry. So I think that was the biggest learning curve, was understanding what players, and I think it is for most artists, especially young artists, when you enter the industry or whatever age you are, like learning what is the function of each position and what you really need as an artist, what you don't at a certain stage. Uno aprende a veces a lo madrazo, como dice mi mamá. Otras veces uno, you know, you get lucky and you meet people along the way that are willing to be generous with their experience. But I think that was the biggest learning curve, was, you know, with me and my parents and my family trying to protect me at a young age, and also encourage me to, you know, take the steps that I needed to as an artist to grow.
And to that point, I think that what surprises me is how little people know their own niche, but they don't understand, they lose the forest for the trees. You know what I mean? Like, they can't see the big picture. And I think it's really important when you're getting into the business to understand the business model. I always say that music business is 90% business, 10% music. So if you understand where you fit in the cog, then you can understand how you can add and optimize and, you know, help out as much as you can. But it's really important to just understand the machine so that then you can zero in on what your specialty is going to be.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think it's definitely, you know, when I first got into the business, it was so one-dimensional of what I wanted to do. But when I got into it, it was so broad. It was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like she said, like it's the music business, you know what I mean? Like that's what it is. And there's so much to learn from that. And I think coming from school, we didn't get too much of that. Like, I had to learn from the school of the hard knocks of the streets of being in the industry. I was like, wait, what? And I had to learn from watching others and what they went through. Yeah. And you know, or if I got lucky, I got someone to say, hey, listen, put me to the side and say, hey, listen, you need to be careful, you know, when you try to get this, you know, this kind of a gig, you need to make sure that you have this and that covered, because I didn't know. You know, like even when I first started engineering, I didn't know what my rate was going to be. You know, like I didn't know how to charge. Yeah, I didn't have a manager. I was doing everything on my own. So all of those kind of things I was so unprepared for, and I had to learn it as I was going through the business. You know, and I there was a lot of mistakes, but that's okay, because those mistakes allowed me to become, wise in the decisions that I was making moving forward. So.
Sí, y de mi lado un poco al contrario, porque como yo vengo de la parte de negocios, una de las cosas que más tuve que aprender de la industria de la música es que si bien hay un negocio, al final es un negocio de seres humanos, creativos, artistas, donde uno tiene que balancear a veces esa visión muy de negocios, de las cosas que hay que hacer y los objetivos, y saber que uno trabaja con un ser humano que tiene un corazón, que al final, más allá de que se llama el music business, es arte, ¿no? Es música, quieren expresar sus pensamientos, es muy personal. Y creo que ese equilibrio fue al principio, que yo era como muy business, cuando pasé de la parte como de business, aparte yo empecé con catálogo, entonces los artistas no existían. Sí. Es decir, yo aprendía de la música, lo empaquetaba, cómo se vendía. Pero cuando pasé a la parte de marketing, ya tratar con artistas, básicamente eso fue un aprendizaje, porque al final es un negocio en pos del arte de otra persona. Y uno lo que hace es acompañar en ese proceso, dependiendo en el área que estás, marketing, management, y son seres humanos. Y eso creo que es de mi lado, porque yo soy tan como business, strategy, whatever, es el gran aprendizaje. Es cómo acompañar cuando un día no quieren, cuando un día tienen otra visión, cuando un día están tristes, cuando la canción no funciona. Entonces,
and not sorry to cut you off, but just the sacrifice to be an artist. Like a lot of, in the same way that maybe your family discouraged you from music business for whatever reason.
I discouraged myself.
Pero it's I just think of my sister who's an actress and my other sister who's a cinematographer, and for them to just say, I'm going to do acting, and you have a college degree, what are you doing?
Yo me acuerdo que cuando era chica, mi papá me decía algo y es verdad, me decía, los artistas no son como los seres humanos normales, tienen una sensibilidad diferente. Dice, vos no te subirías a un escenario y cantarías y la gente te aplaudiría y vos podrías cantar. Bueno, ese chip diferente, que es la sensibilidad, es lo que a uno desde el lado de business todo el tiempo te toca estar como diciendo, ok, es verdad, ¿no? ¿Dónde estás? Porque a veces uno en esto del negocio, y más ahora que va tan rápido, presiona a los artistas a hacer ciertas cosas o mira qué ojo, no vas a perder la oportunidad. Y en algún momento uno tiene que como, ok, stop, ¿no? Como decir, ok, ¿qué querés vos?
There's huge tension in that.
Exacto.
There's like a healthy friction. It feels terrible.
Exactly.
but that's what creates the magic of this business.
Y en un negocio que la verdad, el que dice que sabe es mentira. Nadie sabe.
Everyone's improvising. Everyone is improvising.
Y todo el tiempo es como un gamble. Todo el tiempo es...
There's always risk.
Es decir, yo siempre digo que las relaciones de los artistas con, no sé, las plataformas, con el que hagas un contrato, es mentira. Porque vos le decís que vas a dar lo mejor de vos, las mejores canciones, y el otro te dice, yo te voy a manejar increíble, te voy a hacer el mejor, te voy a proteger, y nadie sabe. Porque al final... Tal vez la canción es buena, pero no conecta, porque la era, no porque la canción no es mala, por el tiempo, por el momento, por las plataformas. Y tal vez yo soy buenísima, pero no nos llevamos bien. Y es mucho de eso este negocio, ¿no? Como de variantes incontrolables. Sí. ¿No?
Yes.
Y donde en el centro hay seres humanos. Que yo creo que ahora, bueno, después vamos a hablar seguramente de todo el tema de la inteligencia artificial, y yo creo que eso es un foco que no hay que perder, que este es un negocio de seres humanos y emociones que inventan o generan seres humanos, ¿no? Músicos, productores, artistas.
What's something you had to learn quickly that no class or textbook could really prepare you for?
Adaptarse. A tener la cintura de adaptarse a los cambios.
Yeah, the one thing they can't teach you is vibe. Right? You cannot be taught vibe. That's something, my career started from school. I went working for a studio here in Miami called the Hit Factory, Criteria. And at this particular studio, I mean, you get the A class of all class of artists. So, when you're there working and you're an intern and you have these major, big artists coming through the door, you have to not be a weirdo, because that's a place of business, a safe space for them. They're professionals. You have to be professional, and that's not something they teach you. You just have to learn to be like, not be like, and freeze up and be like, oh, hi. Yeah, or you just got to be like, hello, treat them, they want to feel, normal. They don't necessarily want to feel like, oh gosh, they get so much of that out in the real world. So, just really being able to, when you go into a room, if they're the ones calling you in, like, excuse me, can I order food or something? And you have to just keep your cool and keep, that fandom excitement down. I think is very important. And then eventually when, as for me, when I got more into the technical side of everything, I mean, you really have to learn how to have that communication with an artist, with a producer, with the artist managers, with, every player that's in the room. It's a very important technique, but that you can't be taught this.
That's a skill.
It's a very unique thing, and a lot of it is just taught by you watching others, when you are in your beginning days and weeks and months, and just applying it in your way and seeing what works, what doesn't work. But I think that's something that you couldn't even teach that. Yeah. Even if you tried, it's just, because it's something that's very natural, and I believe that it's a big indicator of one's success too, on how they succeed in an industry like this, because this industry is very quick to throw you. You know what I mean? Like it's not for the faint of heart. Yes, yeah. So I would say
I'm curious to know. Well, now I got questions. I'm like, because the first person that you meet, when you get to the studio, most of the time is the engineer that you're going to be working with, and depending on if you got your own team or whatever, you're usually comfortable. But if someone's working with you for the first time or as an engineer from that studio, like you hope as an artist, you hope to feel safe with that person. You hope to feel comfort, and that's a vibe thing. Like you 100%, said, that's not something that you can learn. But you said that you learned that through observing and listening. Like, at what point was there any point that you felt like, dang, like so-and-so is coming to the studio, like in your earlier years, like so-and-so,
of course,
we got this session, how am I handle this?
I mean, the very first artist that I got to work with in that way was Missy Elliott.
Wow.
So that was the very first artist that I was like, oh, the studio manager was like, yeah, you're gonna work with Missy today. And I was like, okay, girl, you got it.
Was that like you were leading the session? Like you were fully into
that one I was assisting, but I was still just as much as but I still a part of it. The very first engineering session, which it was still a cheat code because I was already assisting this person for a while, it ended up being Missy, where her engineer did not show up.
Wow.
And she was like, I need to get this idea off. And so I was like, I was not great at Pro Tools. Wow. So this was not a good session for me, but I went in confident, like I got this. And I'm, getting ready to do this. And then I messed up terribly. She she was not happy with me, but listen, I kept my cool. I cried in the back room, but I was like, I kept my cool for what it was worth. But I think there was a sense of respect there. Yeah. Because I could have been like, I could have been like, I can't do it. I'm sorry. But I was like, no, I got this. Knowing I did not know what I was doing. Right. I was like, okay, give it all I got.
Do you think that's what made her, any artist, call you back, even if you don't know exactly
100%. I think we definitely had a laughing moment later about it, but I think there was a lot of respect there. And just position. And then also I took that moment and never allowed it to happen again, because after that moment I learned Pro Tools.
That's where you learn.
I was like, oh heck no, I better, and I was hours on hours learning. So the next time I had that opportunity, and there was a next time, it was she was like, you sure you got this? I'm like, I got this. And then when I finally, and everything went right, she's like, okay. So and then 100%.
So wild.
En ese punto creo que una de las cosas que uno no aprende y lo tiene que desarrollar es la inteligencia emocional.
Sí.
Que es como, okay.
People. Dealing with people.
Esto no me amedrenta, voy, estudio, me preparo y la próxima vez lo puedo hacer bien, porque si no, sí es una carrera que uno quiere renunciar todo el tiempo. Es decir, si uno no tiene como esa personalidad de prepararse y decir, ok, no es personal, es un momento.
Being coachable.
Exacto. No sobrevivís en esta carrera.
For me, I think there's 3 lessons that were really important, and they all intertwine circularly. When I first started working at BMG US Latin, I was in the legal department. But sometimes there was not enough legal work to do there. So I would work with the production office, or I would work at the publicity office, or I would work with the accounting office or the finance office, and I would just help them. And they just needed the help. And so they were happy to see me, and they said, whatever you want to do, we'll be happy to give it to you. So it was a learning curve for me, but they also felt safe with me because they knew that I was going to try my best. And that I was consistent and I was showing up every day. And in this business where there's less and less employees and more independent contractors, I think it's really important to understand how important your reputation is. Your reputation enters the room before you do. Yes. And people are always watching you, whether you're watching people and people are watching you, you know? And sometimes it's not getting to the room, it's staying in the room. You know? So I think it's really important that one thing builds upon each other. Your network comes with being helpful and just assisting and being consistent. And that translates into a reputation for you. You know, so that was kind of what helped me. Unconsciously, back in the day, I was not this wise, but unconsciously, that's how it connected for me.
Disposition. I feel like the common ground is having a good disposition across the board. Yeah. Being a person that's willing to, put in the work, to learn. Yeah,
to be of service.
Be of service.
Yeah. Y no tener miedo de preguntar cuando uno no sabe, ¿no? Eso también, digo, a un punto, a tu punto de colaborar en diferentes áreas. Yo por lo mismo, no sé, finanzas, bueno, tal vez no era mi fuerte. Iba, me sentaba con el de finanzas, le preguntaba, aprendía. Creo que cuando uno quiere este negocio y quiere aprender cada vez más, eso es algo que no hay que tener miedo, ¿no? De preguntar y que no sabes, y uno no sabe todo.
Honestly, you're not, especially when you're starting out, you're not too good for anything. I started as, I got coffee, I got water, I made copies, I did whatever I needed to do, you know, like not whatever, excuse me, but generally speaking, I never thought, and it's funny because people still, like now I'm an entertainment lawyer and I work with all these highfalutin artists, and then there's people that still remember me as the receptionist. I would fill in for the receptionist, and I think that's a lesson for artists. You treat everybody with respect, you know, everybody with respect. And it shouldn't be because you never know what's going to happen. It should just be because you're a good human person. But asterisk, you might see them down the line.
Exactly. Yeah, you most likely will in this business.
And let me tell you, I respect that too, because I have people today that say, man, I remember when Marcella used to run food. I remember when Marcella used to make these beautiful flower arrangements at the Hit Factory. That was my job. Like I would go and do these fruit baskets for each of the studios for the clients. And they would say, like, I remember when I would see her stomping across the parking lot, like balancing all these, like, you know, containers of food, because that's what's my job. But I did it to the best of the best. The presentation, it wasn't like I was just dropping the food off. No, it was like there was a presentation. There was a way that I would lay it out, you know. I was very cognizant on like making sure that I wasn't breathing over people's food. You know, there's certain things that it's
people remember those things.
Yeah, they remember it. So.
And I'm sure you remember whoever gave you a hard time when they came to the studio on the artist end.
Never forgets.
That's Sometimes I've been in the studio.
I'm gonna write a book one day.
I'm sure you guys have had like experiences. I'm sorry in the name of all artists, but I'm always very mindful of those things. I think that's on a person level.
There's some good ones. There's some good ones.
Course.
I count you one of the good ones.
Yeah, but then there's I think that starts at a person, like a human level.
Yeah.
And
no solo artistas.
Y viene de la educación también, like of what you know, what you've been taught of how you treat people, you know, and you can tell when an artist is just kind to people.
Y de vuelta, a veces son los artistas y a veces es el
entorno.
Es decir, al final es un negocio muy basado en las personas.
I will say, you know, being an engineer, right, as a woman, 24 years ago when I got started, there was just me. You know, there wasn't all these great organizations where I could like lean onto them and be like, oh, I'm a woman. No, there was nothing. And so there was people that really treated me like I was the bottom of the shoe. And I remember those people. And those same people, fast forward, ended up calling me for work. Like, because now I have a studio, now I have the clientele, now I have, and then it's like, what?
Yeah.
You calling little old me? Like, you know?
Not you.
But I tell that, don't ever, like, I have a son, and I always tell him, lead with kindness, lead with your heart. You know what I mean? Like, treat people like human beings, you know? Like, treat how you always want to be treated, because you never know. Full circle where this can lead up, like, you know? And yeah, so I've been there.
Leslie, tu carrera ha movido diferentes lenguajes, géneros, países, música, televisión y películas. Nos gustaría escuchar cómo proteges tu identidad mientras navegas en estos diferentes espacios.
Bueno, ha sido un trabajito de varios años. Yo creo que lo más importante para mí es mantener las personas que más me conocen alrededor de mí, mi familia, mis padres. They've always been there. Anybody who knows me, I obviously started young, so I started at 16. I'm 31 now. So it's been years of people seeing me travel with my parents. They know that they're like, not anymore, but when I started, como era tan pequeña, ellos estaban ahí aprendiendo conmigo y protegiéndome como persona primeramente. And I think that always helped me maintain like a sense of like preserve, normalcy to a degree, but like more so like the importance, like maintain the importance of like preserving the essence of who I am as a person. And that even if everything else was like super abnormal in my life, you know, I signed my first deal with Surge at Top Stop when I was 16 and I was still in high school. And I was like, my parents had to figure out how to get me a half day at school and like the rest online while I was going to the studio to record. And sometimes I would come with like the hairdo from the award show the night before to school, like literally like a zombie. So in those moments, I think that was very important I think my parents every day, even when I'm not with them, that they were with me throughout that, even if they didn't know what the best thing was to do at certain points. That was really important for me to have like some sense of home with me. And then to establish like, I got to take care of myself as a person. And then as an artist, my artistic identity, that's something that I think all artists have to build over time. Like, that's not something, that's a constant thing. I think even as a person too, you continue to evolve and get to know yourself and get to know your preferences. And then let me say this, as a woman, especially in a male-dominated industry, and me, I started in a male-dominated genre, bachata, so young. It's taken me so long to understand the importance of no, to understand the importance of being able to, get over the nerves of communicating something that might be contrary to what, the very, very opinionated and expert level people in my life at certain moments in time had, thought or thought for me. That's something that takes years to gain that kind of confidence. And as a woman, I think it's in general, we're taught from so young to like kind of just, be nice, look right and just smile and wave and be uncomfortable. We learn how to deal with discomfort, even down to a biological level. We're so used to that. So that translates into a lot of the things that you learn to deal with in the industry. And now at my 31 years of age, I think I'm still working on it, but something that helps me maintain my identity is like always having a gut check with the people closest to me of like, yo, is my face twitching when someone says this? Or is it when I tell you what I'm about to do, does it look like I'm uncomfortable or I'm enjoying this? Because if I'm not, like, feel free to give me the permission to say no, or to give me the permission to say, hey, like, would you like this differently? Practicing voicing preferences is the way that I think I'm learning how to protect my artistic identity and integrity as a person as well.
Leslie, I just want you to know that no, You don't have to feel bad. You don't have to feel guilty about saying no. No is a complete sentence. No. There's sometimes you don't have to explain. No. Yeah.
And you have your reasons.
I wonder for you guys in your positions, each of you, you know, a lot of times that predisposition we were talking about off camera, there's a predisposition or an assumption that women don't have certain ideas or knowledge of certain things in certain spaces. Y yo sé que es todo lo opuesto. We know to the T how we like.
But I think it has to do with that, with education and the way we were brought up. Because I think there's two things. They never teach us how to speak about money. Like that's a really tough thing, like how to ask for more.
Yeah.
Because we're like, oh, well, maybe this is what I deserve.
We anticipate being met with resistance.
And saying no. There's no problem saying no. Well, it's going to be next time or whatever. But sometimes what Angie was saying is like, you said something. You said, ask permission to say no. And the only permission is yours.
Is yours.
No one else needs, your family, anyone needs to give you permission. You need to give yourself the permission of saying no. The reasons, you have them. Sometimes, maybe after a discussion, sometimes you're going to be right, sometimes
you can change your mind.
But it's what you feel. Because I think if you do it with doubts, then it's worse. In a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like, sometimes having a good team and having your family, it's kind of like what we said, cable a tierra.
Yeah,
¿no?
that's what I mean.
Como ese que después de estar en un premio y en un éxito, volvés a tu habitación y la cabeza es difícil. Esto que decías, un día estar en un premio y el otro día ir a la escuela
asimilar
con tus compañeritos.
Claro.
Es como, digo,
nadie
no es normal, nadie lo entiende.
Claro, es abnormal.
Y de hecho, nosotros, a mí como ejecutiva, a veces digo, no, tengo que ir a los Grammys y no sé qué. Y la gente se hace una fantasía y cree que uno tiene una vida que cuando tenés que explicar lo que haces, dicen, pero ¿qué haces con el artista? ¿Para qué lo acompañas? Vos decís, ok, y nadie lo entiende. Es un negocio muy difícil a veces de entender lo que cada uno en nuestro rol hace, y más para un artista.
Específico.
Y cuando el artista dice, no, pero yo bajé de un show y estoy sola, y la gente, vos ves en las redes que dicen, ay, ¿de qué te quejas si tenés la vida perfecta?
Si lo escogiste.
Y vos decís, no, porque hay cosas, o decir que no a una cosa, te cuesta, y creo que eso es lo que hay que empoderarse, ¿no? A sentir que no importa si te equivocas.
Yeah, that's the thing that protects your identity is learning not to ask for permission to say
no. Y vos recién lo dijiste, de que le voy a pedir permiso, y digo, a vos te tenés que pedir permiso, es el único permiso que tenés que pedir.
Bueno, sí, es cierto, pero a veces when you don't have I think in previous times now I know it's just about me. Pero en momentos o etapas anteriores, yo sí miraba, cuando no tenía esa confianza en mí misma, yo sí miraba a mi mamá o a mi papá.
Claro,
como
¿qué
que,
digo?
Ustedes me ven la cara y saben que no quiero hacer esto.
Help.
Yeah, like sometimes you need to borrow courage.
Yo trabajé con un artista que sus papás estaban muy... Y él me miraba y me decía, decí vos que no.
Sí.
Yo le decía, vamos a tomar las clases de aprender a decir que no. Hay que aprender a decir que no.
Claro.
But the manager is the bad person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then I'm the enemy. You know? So, and it's okay.
And
Exactly.
That's what I was going to ask before, is like you guys in your positions, you know, for the artists, it can become a very codependent dynamic of the artist because we're not taught these things. We're taught how to, you know, if you want to be an artist, it's like drill your vocals, drill your dancing, drill your performance, drill, you know, all of these skills. But in terms of like people skills and learning communication skills, it can become very codependent on relying on the manager, on relying on the lawyer, on relying on your engineer in the studio to communicate something that really is your decision.
Pero hay una cosa también que en el negocio va tan rápido a veces que hasta como lawyers o managers, uno presiona al artista. Y el artista hay un punto que por más que yo siempre quiero defenderlo, hay un momento que en la rapidez, sin darte cuenta, a veces no con maldad, decís, no, pero sí, y el artista tiene que como ponerse fuerte y decir, ¿sabes qué? Te entiendo, pero hoy no. Y uno tiene que aprender a decir, ok, me dijo que no.
Respect.
Porque a veces en la rapidez, ¿no? Uno también pone esa presión porque uno cree que es lo mejor para el artista y a veces no está en ese momento.
But I wanted to say something about being a woman in the business. Like, you know, I welcome being underestimated. I welcome it. I love it. Like, oh, you don't think I'm shit? Let me show you.
Pero también eso es algo que lo aprendes.
Yeah.
Como que yo creo que hay que aprender, yo siempre le digo a las chicas más jóvenes que es como que vienen muy empoderadas. Yo digo, ojo, porque a veces cuando uno viene tan empoderado, asusta. Sí. A veces es mejor que te underestimate, porque entonces ahí vos estás mirando desde otro lugar, observando para dar tu próximo paso. Entonces yo creo que no hay que pelearse con muchas de las cosas que tocan en este ambiente siendo mujeres, ¿no?
Como, allow yourself to prove.
I welcome it. I welcome it. It's like, oh, I will so prove it. When you make haters into believers.
Right. It's a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful feeling.
Of course, like we've been talking about, when you go into the industry, if you want to do one thing, you think you're only going to be doing that one thing, but then you find out how overwhelming and like huge this whole thing is. So how does management, sound, legal, artists work together to build a career and to actually get a project out there? Because I feel like people don't really know all of the steps that it takes for them to hit play on a song and enjoy it.
Well, I always say that behind every successful rollout, there's somebody who quietly had a breakdown at some point, because it's an assembly line, and then sometimes it funnels in different areas. I know that on the lawyer side, it already depends. I would prefer to talk to the artist, but sometimes I'm Debbie Downer, persona non grata for a lot of artists. Like, she's just gonna tell me everything that could go wrong. And I'm like, well, contracts are like prenups.
Kind of my job.
Like, you never think you're gonna need one until you need one. Like, so ultimately, sometimes I always try to talk to the artist when it's time to sign the contract, because you also never know with the managers, some managers. But I usually talk to the manager, who will funnel the information, and they're the one that connects the dots. But sometimes I'm talking to the production coordinator who's giving me the song titles, who that person's the one who negotiated deals, or the A&R at the record label. But yeah, it's a family. It's dysfunctional sometimes, but a family nonetheless.
Bueno, desde el lado de management, obviamente es un poco el rol, es el de estar jugando e interactuando con todas las áreas para desarrollar la carrera de un artista. Es decir, por un lado está lo que el artista quiere, la música, el arte, y en esa parte, la parte de producción, de cómo hacer la música. Después está la parte de protección con abogados para diferentes negocios o cosas que quieran realizar. Entonces, obviamente, esta industria es constantemente, dependiendo el objetivo que tengas en ese momento, hablas con los labels, hablas con los abogados, hablas con los productores, hablas con el artista. Entonces, obviamente que todas las funciones constantemente se están interrelacionando, ¿no? Para el objetivo final, que es un poco, el cliente principal, ¿quién es? El artista, ¿no? Al final de ahí es donde parte un poco todas nuestras funciones diferentes.
Me imagino que tienes que aprender cómo comunicarte con cada uno, porque un artista entiende términos, un ingeniero entiende ciertos términos que de pronto un manager no tanto.
Yo creo que no es tanto de los términos, porque creo que los términos al final uno los puede aprender. Es lo que decía Angie, ¿no? Como esa sensibilidad para saber en qué momento un abogado habla directo con el artista, qué le dice para que no se asuste, porque al final su concentración tiene que ser en el arte. Qué cosas habla un manager con un abogado, qué cosas el artista habla directo con el productor, pero después por el otro lado habla con el abogado. Entonces yo creo que es un skill el tener esa temperatura, ¿no? Esa empatía con cada una de las partes que te toca ir relacionándote. No siempre es igual, y los tiempos. A veces no es el momento, ¿no? A veces es como un abogado dice, no, tenés que decirle ahora, y vos decís, ok, no, porque, no sé, tuvo este problema, no va a estar atento, no se va a poder concentrar. Y entonces eso es un juego constante, y yo creo que uno va desarrollando una sensibilidad para saber cuándo, ¿no? Es el momento
Yeah, the management role is gauging the temperature on a lot of different people. It's learning, it's knowing people. You have to know people really well.
Totalmente. Eso, es measure, es medir esa sensibilidad para decir, ok, este es el momento de sentarme a negociar, este es el momento de hablar con mi artista, este es el momento de proponerle tal cosa. Claro. Porque tiene que todas las partes tener una apertura para querer hacerlo.
But there are artists that are very open to having the business talk, but there are other artists, like you say, de que le pone nerviosa. And you know,
o no les interesa a veces. Entonces, es otra manera de explicarles porque no son business savvy.
No, my thing is, I always, like, especially when I'm going on vacations, like, I'm not a brain surgeon. Like, you'll be all right, you'll live. But I am like a surgeon of dreams, you know? And it's like this person's dream, and you're so close, but it might just be like the worst contract ever, you know? So it's a matter, but yes, there's artists that are like empapados, pero en fin, todos los artistas tienen que saber que no puede estar en misa y procesión. You have to be an artist. Yeah. I will do my thing. Yeah. You do your thing.
Yeah, I think, to your point, it's a hard balance for an artist because so much of it is the business, you know, figuring out the right times when you have to insulate yourself from all of the moving pieces around you that are stemming from this particular objective that you have as an artist. And then when are the moments too for you to approach your manager, or your publicist, or your whatever, you know, or an engineer or producer and say, oh man, this is happening, but I really wanted this to happen. How can we bridge the gap between this and that, you know, or just have conversations that are a little bit more technical that I think sometimes it's assumed that artists don't want to have, because depending on the artist, you know, and that just like there are a gazillion colors, there are a bunch of different artists, y cada cabeza es un mundo. So there are, like, for myself, I kind of like to be hands-on with a little bit of everything, but I choose people around me that I trust. And that is I think I would say that's the number one thing, is like being able to know when you have to communicate something that only you can communicate as an artist, and then communicate it to the people you trust enough so that when it's time to let it go, you can, you know that it'll be in good hands. You can delegate it.
Y también, como del lado del artista, yo creo que tienen que conocer el negocio. Yo creo que es fundamental, porque al final es el music business. Hay una parte artística, pero hay una parte que es un negocio al final. Yo a veces digo, cuando veo ciertas cosas con los artistas, digo, el dueño de X marca protege todo el tiempo esa marca de una manera muy, muy consciente, por más que un día se sienta mal, que un día se pelee con su pareja, que un día quiera renunciar. Lo protege. Y yo a veces siento que los artistas, cuando no conocen que es un negocio y no tienen esa parte, no le dan ese valor a lo que construyeron.
Sí.
Y es como, no, hoy esto no lo quiero hacer, o no me siento bien, y no cuidan la marca. Yo creo que eso es algo muy importante de entender el negocio, para saber que el sacrificio, porque es mucho sacrificio, la realidad es, vos estabas contando de los 16 años, es un gran sacrificio.
Y nadie te enseña eso.
Y nadie te lo enseña.
Lo opuesto. Muchas veces te enseñan que, that's somebody else's job. You know, they'll tell you how
yo creo que
it's best to
los artistas
brand
lo aprenden más de maduros, cuando ya han caminado la carrera y se dan
cuando
cuenta
ya
del
le han
valor.
quemado.
Cuando le han quemado, exactamente. Y a mí eso es una de las cosas a veces que como que digo, sí, no quiero decir marcas, pero no sé, la gaseosa. El señor de la gaseosa se casa, se descasa, se pelea, nunca arruina la gaseosa. Sí, ¿no? Y a veces es como proteger mucho esa esencia del camino construido. Porque yo creo que, y hoy vivimos en un día con todo esto de todo tan abrumado, que es difícil tener paciencia y el long term de proteger la marca del artista. Y cuando hablamos de marca, los artistas es como que a mí no me gusta decir, son un producto. Sí. Pero en algún punto lo son, ¿no?
You're creating products.
Y entonces yo creo que eso también es muy importante, es que el artista sí entienda lo básico que está desarrollando, que es música, adentro de un ecosistema de un negocio.
Y yo creo de que eso, y esa sabiduría es importante a cara del público y a cara de la industria. Porque ese artista de que no llega sino 5 horas después, si no llega, pero llega encima de estar tarde, estaba borracho o fumado.
That's your reputation.
O
That's your
sea,
brand.
entonces, son cosas de que si tiene cargas criminales, las marcas no van a querer trabajar con él. Si dice de que va a salir un sencillo, entonces no sale. Entonces, no entiende de que la palabra es importante y tu reputación es importante, porque el día de mañana, entonces las plataformas ya no confían de que va a venir.
Claro.
No te van a dar una
Y
campaña.
además, con eso de la reputación, todos sabemos que el éxito es muy corto plazo, ¿no? El éxito dura un segundo.
Claro.
¿Qué te mantiene en una carrera a largo plazo? Todo lo que dice Angie.
Sí.
La credibilidad, el saber de que tal vez mañana
consistencia,
no
la
tenés
constancia.
una canción éxito, pero con vos pueden contar. Y yo creo que eso en una carrera, que digo, yo todavía soy de las que creen las carreras a largo plazo, creo que es lo único que te mantiene.
Yeah, and definitely in this industry, you know, I think it's at the end of the day, it looks fun, it looks exciting, but there's a level of professionalism that has to be maintained across the board with everybody involved. And I think sometimes some artists lose sight of that, and it does take a really good manager to really kind of help have that dialogue and that trust to where they can kind of keep them straight. In my experience, sorry, Angie, I don't know what it is, but they don't like talking to the attorney. They don't like talking to the attorney. They want to stay, artists love to stay in their creative space, and the talk with the attorney pops their bubble.
Right.
And they're like, oh man, I have to,
Yeah.
and I'm just
Lawyer
like,
chat.
you know, they love talking to the engineer producer. We are therapists, we are everything to them, you know, but yeah, it's very unique with the team, the intertwining of the team of it all is so important for the center of what it is, which is the product, which is the artist and what they, you know, are trying to do.
And I just have to say, the reputation part is important because especially artists have so much competition now with the platforms. Everybody wants to be an artist. Everybody has a song. Everybody has a social media platform. Everybody thinks they're going to make it. And I hope everybody makes it. But the truth is that not everybody does. And so you work so hard to make it. And then for foolishness and for little things, for negligence, you let it all crumble to nothing. Like, that's the part that is most frustrating when I see it in the artists. And I tell my artists, listen, I will help you, but I can't want it more than you do. So if I have to chase you for splits, if I have to chase you to return a phone call, if I have to chase you to respond to an email, then honey, it's not worth it for me.
Right.
Y yo creo que también, y hasta más allá, porque a veces obviamente hay artistas que son más dispersos, llamémoslo, pero también creo que ahora con esta presión que hay una parte emocional que yo la estoy viendo cada vez más, que los satura. Porque en la época, hace, no sé, 15 años, la previa no se veía. Sí. Es decir, cuando un artista estaba en el proceso, no se veía. Claro. Ahora, desde el día cero del proceso, vos ya ves todo en las redes sociales.
Todo, ya entonces, el disco está afuera. Ya.
Para cuando el disco sale y el proceso arranca, la gente medio que ya se cansó.
Sí.
Y eso también hace que los artistas tengan que trabajar el triple, porque hacen su música, su contenido. Y por otro lado, la parte internacional, que sé que después vamos a hablar un poco, hoy un lanzamiento o un artista es internacional del día 1 y eso implica mucho más trabajo. Entonces yo creo que hay como un burnout mucho más rápido de que lo que tal vez había antes, que uno organizaba y decía, bueno, 3 canciones, después promo, después el álbum. Y la competencia a la vez todo el tiempo, porque no se te ocurra buscar un artista que el algoritmo te empieza a taladrar con ese. Y yo creo que eso está haciendo que a mí me ha pasado, sí he tenido los que se portan mal, no en el sentido de que no se quieren portar o no vienen o no están, pero lo otro que a mí me da como a veces más tristeza es los que tienen todo, pero necesitan irse. Y yo digo, está bueno tomar un break e irse, pero ¿sabes qué? No arruines tu marca, porque a veces el irse sin tener claro que te querés ir, que te querés tomar, sin la intención, hace que arruines tu marca. Y a mí me parece que eso hoy cada vez es más importante. Que los artistas entiendan. Exacto. Sí. Pero si lo haces con intención, podés volver cuando quieras.
I deviated. I focused on acting for a bit, which was something I had to grow in, and I took the time to reconnect with music in a private way, porque era por todo lo que acabas de decir. las expectativas para un artista hoy día son un montón. You're playing so many other roles.
Mira,
that-
yo trabajé con un artista que una vez me hizo una comparación, y ahora el otro día justo estaba leyendo un poema acerca de este tema, que es muy interesante, que es cómo es escalar el Everest. Y él me decía, la sensación es que cuando uno va, uno empieza, y es súper emocionante, y querés llegar ahí arriba a la cima. Cuando llegás a la cima, ¿qué haces? Entonces, si no tenés la cabeza bien puesta y podés tomarte ese break de respirar en la cima y decir, ok, y entonces en este poema un poco lo que decían es que ¿cómo se hace? Se vuelve a bajar. Y se vuelve a conectar con la base, pero planificadamente. ¿Por qué? Porque si vos lo que haces es que llegaste ahí, te abrumaste y desapareces sin saber cuál es tu próximo, ahí arruinaste tu mano.
No, te tiras de la montaña y ya.
Entonces me parece que eso hoy, en la era que vivimos, donde hay muchos ejemplos de artistas que llegan ahí y que de repente se queman y no se dan cuenta lo importante que es mantener ese core para volver cuando quieran, como quieran, ¿no?
You have to renew, too. You have to evolve. You have to find a new angle to enter the art that you've already.
Y no perder el norte, que para mí esto es el negocio de la música. La música que comunica emociones, cosas lindas. Entonces, cuando pasa a ser una tortura y solo es una carrera para ver quién hace el mejor TikTok en 15 segundos, ¿no? Y sobre todo, de cara a lo que se viene. Porque yo creo que lo que viene, de la única manera que este negocio y de la parte humana va a sobrevivir, es exactamente con la humanidad. Con reconocer las emociones reales, las historias que queremos contar desde la humanidad, porque el AI no puede hacer todo el resto.
You can only do what you prompt it to.
Exacto.
Okay, Marcela, how do you think about a record sounding good across headphones, cars, clubs, arenas, festivals, and different countries?
So for me, I mean, definitely when I am working on records, mixing them, there has to be a translation across the board. But you can't fight the monster of feeling like I have to make sure it's going to sound right all the way down to the festival, because that's a whole different system, right? I think a lot of the focus, if you're able to create a mix and have it translate correctly, what it sounds like in the studio, headphones, and in the car, you're in there. You're in
golden.
there. Yeah, you're pretty golden, because from there it's going to translate across the board to the clubs, to the festivals. So, you know, that has to be a mindset that you have to know that, like, it's going to go beyond, you know, somebody. Obviously, no one's listening in the studio like we're doing. So it's got to sound a certain way in the studio where I know it's going to translate the correct way in the car, in the headphones. But that being said, I do take the mixes out and I take them. I even listen down on my laptop. I listen in the headphone. I listen in the car. I listen to where I know the consumer is going to be listening the most. And from there, to be really honest, when they go down to going to clubs and festivals, it's really the engineer of the front of house to really make sure that it's going to sound the way it's going to sound. Right. Yeah. So.
I had something that shocked me, like in my early years of recording, was Sergio George to check the masters.
Oh, yeah.
He would check the masters on his iPhone. He would put it in the middle of his head.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd be like, "Yep, good." And I'd be like, "What?" He'd be like,
No, I
"Yeah,
do
if it
that
sounds
too.
great on an iPhone, it's great. It's good to go."
It's true. It's true.
And I would be like, "Serge."
When I first
but it's
started
true.
mixing, one of the biggest things, and this is when like I would go around the different studios around the world, basically, and a lot of studios still had their tape machines in the studio. So I would get the mix that I'd print up, or I would just like send the signal over and listen on the little mono speaker.
Whoa.
And that if I could get it to sound great on this little
Nice and full.
crappy little speaker, I knew that it would translate well everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's a big deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's definitely you have to get it to translate across, and that is definitely listening to it on different mediums. Yeah.
¿Cuál es la diferencia entre una canción popular internacionalmente y una carrera que puede vivir internacionalmente?
Una canción internacional puede pasar pero una carrera internacional es intencional. Es decir, el artista sabe su demográfica. El artista o el equipo de manejo, la disquera, el equipo de marketing, saben en qué mercados le gustan al artista. el artista ha invertido y ha ido a esos lugares, ha ido a hacer radio, ha ido a hacer prensa, tiene una caridad, tiene algo de que toca ese país. Y para mí es importante de que los artistas siempre como que la expectativa es de que cuando empiezas y cuando tengas un primer contrato discográfico y cuando hagas la gira, ahí vas a estar rico. No, tienes que reinvertir y reinvertir y reinvertir. Y una carrera internacional, una canción se puede pegar, Gangnam Style, se pegó, pero ¿qué pasó? Se quedó, entonces para mí es importante de que el artista entienda de que esto es como que es un maratón, no es una carrera.
Yeah.
Se tiene que llegar a través de diferentes desafíos. You're going to have the label president. You're going to have the tour promoter. You're going to have hay tantos diferentes aspectos de que construye una carrera, de que primero es importante como que fundamentalizarlo y después poder expandirlo a un nivel internacional.
That's so true. Yeah, yo creo que una carrera, un éxito en una carrera requiere mucho tiempo y inversión de tiempo, dinero, intención y muchas canciones. El éxito de una canción tal vez puede pasar. That can happen. It's also hard to have a song hit the right moment, the right time, the right people, and promote it in the right way. Pero eso puede pasar y eso no significa que ese artista va a tener una carrera larga, a menos que no ponga, se invierta ese tiempo a crear una carrera intencionalmente. Eso toma más tiempo, sacrificio, disciplina.
Y es una decisión, ¿no? Porque
Yes.
obviamente hoy las canciones son internacionales en el momento que salen. La realidad que ya no. La globalización ha hecho que todas las canciones puedan llegar a cualquier lado. La internacionalización creo que tiene que ver con analizar muy bien qué comunidad tenés, cómo los artistas van haciendo que esas comunidades en diferentes países vayan creciendo y tomar la responsabilidad y evaluar si es el momento para hacerlo. Hay artistas que porque una canción empieza a tener un trend en un país, dicen, ay, bueno, nos vamos internacionales. Y la realidad que, como dice Leslie, es tomar una decisión de la constancia y del trabajo que implica volver a los países, visitarlos, es tiempo, es saber hablarle a cada una de las culturas, sin abandonar. Para mí no hay que abandonar el público, sí, y el público objetivo tuyo, tu nicho, ¿no? Me parece que eso es lo que requiere una internacionalización.
Yeah, I think they all said it best. At the end of the day, I think Angie said it best. I love. It's not a race. It's not a race. It's a marathon, right? So, I think when it comes to artists, it's a step by step. When you want to have an international career, when I've worked with these artists from when they were, I remember working with Chris Brown when he was a kid. Wow. Like he was 50. Like he didn't even have his first song out yet. Yeah. He was just a kid. He's like, my name is Chris Brown. It was like, it was this young kid.
How was it?
My name is Chris Brown. Yeah, but it's, there was decisions made by his team that allowed him to little by little. And remember, when he came out, we weren't even in the streaming world yet. So what they're saying is like, all music right now is really global music because everybody can get their hands on it for the most part, right? And so, like little by little, I think it's definitely about the stages each artist and their team. It's really the team that is behind an artist that really makes the career of an artist, not so much the artist. The artist can have the talent and the songs, but if it's not that they don't have the right team, the team has to facilitate that 1000%.
Y el artista tiene que aceptar querer poner lo que implica una internacionalización. Porque a veces hay artistas, por ejemplo, en Brasil, que uno dice, ¿por qué no hay más artistas que a nivel internacional? Y claro, ganan tanto dinero, tal vez en su mercado, que es como que salir es una decisión de tiempo, de dinero. Claro. Entonces, cuando uno toma esa decisión, bueno, es un commitment importante de inversión, de tiempo, ¿no? Para hacerlo.
También tiene mucho que ver con el objetivo de tal artista. Hay artistas que, quiero pegar una canción o quiero pegar este proyecto y quedarme haciendo shows en mi niche en los Estados Unidos o en Brasil y hay otros artistas que no, quiero que esta canción llegue hasta todos los rincones del mundo y si me llevan para allá, voy para allá. So, eso también va de la mano con tomar esa decisión de que eso viene también con un...
Cada objetivo de cada artista es personal ¿no?
Yeah.
Y
Pero yo creo de que si el objetivo, yo como que es importantísimo de que esto lo entienda el primer artista y el artista de que es más exitoso. El artista de que ahora está en la boca de todo el mundo es Bad Bunny. Y si el artista que ya como que ya más demanda tiene, se levantó temprano para hacer entrevistas de radio, se fue a hacer todas las entrevistas en todas las estaciones, hizo un show en el tren, en el subway de Nueva York. Hay tantos artistas de que tienen nuevos lanzamientos de discos, de que yo entiendo el proceso artístico, pero entonces cuando es tiempo para promoverlo, get it together. So that's the hard part.
El compromiso tiene que estar.
Bueno, yo siempre digo, en esta era nueva, muchos artistas son artistas de Instagram y yo les digo, salgan de la habitación, salgan a conocer el mundo, tengan experiencias reales, porque tanto tiempo en las redes hace que empiecen no solo a copiar, sino a creer que eso que ven es verdad. Entonces, como decís vos, te dicen, no, pero ¿para qué promo si pongo una...? No, porque tenés que ir a conectar con la gente, con armar relaciones, con que cuando das una entrevista en persona estás con una persona, ir a conocer los países, ir a conocer fuera de tu barrio, ¿no? De la gente normal, de tu comunidad. ¿Quiénes son esos que...? Y yo siempre digo que, por ejemplo, en el live es muy gracioso, porque ir a ver un artista en vivo, a todos nos ha pasado, es un commitment. Salir de tu casa, vestirte, comprar el ticket, agarrar el auto. Eso es el amor máximo hacia un artista.
Sí.
Entonces creo que eso hoy, tanto internet, tanto Instagram y todo, hace que haya muchos artistas que viven la fantasía del éxito a través de las redes, pero cuando hay que poner el cuerpo,
Exacto.
yo siempre hago chiste y digo, esta es la parte de la promoción, es la parte que no te contaron del negocio, ¿no? Como que todos quieren ser artistas
really cute
y muy cute,
online,
pero
pero
nadie te
ese
dijo...
compromiso.
Exacto, y no muchos tienen el long-term patience para hacer el trabajo.
Yeah, or the nervous system to handle
Or the
it.
nervous
You
system
know
to
that you gotta work with a foundation that's willing to work that hard. Your audience will only meet you as far as you're willing to meet them. So, si tú no te comprometes, si no te quieres levantar a las 6 de la mañana, nadie te va a escuchar a las 6 de la mañana o a las 3 o you know, you have to be willing to go as far as you want people to come and meet you.
No, and I think your community, your foundation is important, and especially when you're looking at like an international. And I mean, I started with Pitbull, and he was my first client, really. And so it's funny because he always said, first you have to be the hottest artist on your block, then in your neighborhood, then in your city, then in your state, then in your region, you know, and you really like. And obviously, there's a lot of artists, especially on the Latin side, that are half Dominican, half Puerto Rican, Mexican, Chilean, Peruvian, Colombian, like arroz con frijoles. But and we have a perfect opportunity, you know. Sometimes when you're based in the U.S. and you can jump and work in different markets at the same time. But I think you have to really use that to your advantage and also be authentic. Just because you go to Japan doesn't mean you have to speak Japanese. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to be you, and you have to be you in your most real way.
Totalmente. Es que yo creo que aparte de la internacionalización, que a veces hay como, quiero sonar como. Y yo creo que si uno ve lo que realmente termina funcionando en el resto de los países, es cuanto más original el artista es a sus raíces y a lo que conecta. Y por eso la gente se conecta. Cuando uno quiere copiar la tendencia de otro país...
10 steps behind.
Es like,
Totalmente. Algo que me gustaría agregar mucho es que sí, hay que ser muy auténtico en esta carrera. Uno tiene siempre que seguir su intuición, hacer la música que realmente, no solo porque esté tendencia, sino realmente lo que uno siente en el momento, lo que uno es, sus raíces. Y algo que justo Paula decía de lo de las redes sociales, de no ser artista de social media. Ok, está bien que uno tiene que balancear entre social media, pero algo que yo sí debato mucho con mi generación es la parte de los shows en vivo, de estar totalmente, constantemente tocando. Para mí, como artista, es
que
lo
la
crucial.
experiencia en vivo
Ahí
va a
es
ser lo
donde-
único que salve a los
Totalmente.
artistas de la inteligencia
Y ahí es que-
artificial.
Totalmente.
Y creo que eso es un trabajo que todos nosotros, es decir, ella va a protegernos de todo y va a proteger a los artistas, de cómo no van a copiar, pero el artista que no pueda conectar en vivo tiene menos chances de sobrevivir, porque yo creo que lo único que no es reemplazable por ahora es la experiencia en vivo. Y yo siempre eso es como algo que cuando empiezo a trabajar con un artista digo, animate, estar en el estudio es increíble, pero también hay mucha ayuda. El tema es parate ahí con tu guitarra y conectar con... Esa gente no se va nunca más. El que conecte en vivo con un artista es como los compañeros del high school o del primario. Nunca más los dejas. Es como que hay algo emocional muy fuerte. Y la realidad es que lo que se viene en la inteligencia artificial y todo, creo que va a ayudar un montón a la parte técnica, todo. Pero si nosotros, como industria, no protegemos que la experiencia en vivo sea irreemplazable, la realidad es que vamos a tener un problema. Yo estuve, bueno, solo un side, en Inglaterra viendo, no sé si tuvieron oportunidad, el show de ABBA con los hologramas. Sí. Y la verdad fue la primera vez que salí de ahí y dije, ups, yo que digo tanto de la experiencia en vivo, casi sentí que era real. Sentí que dije, oh my God, estoy en una arena construida para esto y los que aparecen ahí cantan todas las canciones que me sé, no existen. Y eso empieza a dar miedito.
Tienes que tener un repertorio para que eso te choque.
No, sí, total. Pero digo,
you know, it's ABBA.
Pero llegan al corazón. Porque para mí la experiencia en vivo es una cosa emocional que vas con tu amiga, que es irreemplazable.
It's about the moment, it's not just about
pero
the artist.
cuando vos vas a un lugar y ves que el artista no existe, que es un holograma, y estás con tus amigos y te cantás las canciones, danger, ¿no? Es cuando uno dice, no, la experiencia en vivo nunca. Ojito. Y yo sí creo que como industria tenemos y como artistas, creo que tenemos una gran responsabilidad de intentar que a los jóvenes le den el valor, porque creo que la música está pasando por un momento donde el valor de la música, hay cada vez más música y cada vez más plataformas para usar música, pero el valor de la música para mí ha perdido un montón. Sí. Es decir, el valor de la canción esa que te conmovía. Ahora es como un commodity, que está en las plataformas, está en las películas.
Sí, lo puedes conseguir en cualquier lugar. You don't have to earn it.
Exacto.
You don't have to earn it.
El negocio ha crecido de dinero. Sí. Y creo que eso es algo que en la industria tenemos que como proteger mucho, que sea especial, porque donde pierda lo especial, ahí sí el AI.
Y yo creo que lo especial, sorry, just to say, from the artist perspective, something that you have to earn is having the confidence, the skill, and really the gall to stand up and sing a song or play a song live in front of an audience. Eso no pasa de un día para otro. Tú puedes en este momento, without having to earn it, pick up your phone and start a live. And you know, if you're an influencer, if you can get people, or you can do something that will get attention. But to hold an audience because you have a great song, or you've written a great song and you can perform it, and you know, keep that audience with you, engaged, and create a moment in their life, that's a sacred thing. That's a spiritual thing. That's something we have to, hay que prepararse y también lo tenemos que proteger, pero yo creo que eso es muy difícil reemplazarlo, aunque haya un hologram. You know, the people that made the hologram, they still had to earn the skill in order to create the hologram to the nearest experience of it being in person. So not everybody can do that overnight.
But to your point, there's so many TikTok stars that have gone viral, but they can't fill a room. The promoters won't book them.
It doesn't translate.
It doesn't translate, and they're unprepared. And I think that's where preparation. When something goes viral, you better have a video ready to go. You better be.
I don't care. More repertoire.
I don't care if you are performing in an alley. No, I'm not going to say that. I don't care if you're performing in an alley. I don't care if you're performing at a bar, at a coffee shop. I don't care if you're performing at your abuela's house. You just perform. You just have to perform. And I mean, also, anybody who works in the music business will tell you this. It's not the money it's not the music that necessarily makes you money. What makes you money is the show. All right? It's the show, it's the experience, it's the merch, it's, you know, but the music is the gasoline, you are the car. You can be an actress, you can have your own shoe brand, you can, but shows are shows are the steering wheel too, you know? So I think it's really important within the context of where we started, you have to understand the music business and where the money makers are. Back in the day, people used to go on tour to promote an album. Right. Now people release an album to promote a tour.
I mean, everything that we're talking about in terms of like things not being replaceable or being replaceable within our industry and the dangers and what we need to protect makes me think about the creative process and being in the studio. In your case, Marcella, like when we're talking about AI and these things, sometimes, you know, there are a number of options of what you can do in the studio. Yeah. But I know, at least for me as a performer and as an interpreter, as a singer first, like I think about, okay, I'm thinking about the show when I'm thinking of range and when I'm writing a song. Mm-hmm. But now we have so many tools that we can use that could stretch the range of what you can do in the studio that might not translate to something live. Yeah. How do you feel about AI creating those possibilities? It not maybe always being able to transfer live to a live setting, and if there are any protections that you feel should be happening, or do you feel like it's a tool? Yeah. To what degree do you feel like it is helpful or hurtful?
I definitely look at AI as a tool to enhance, not necessarily to create from nothing. From nothing, right? I think it's about having maybe an idea there already and then using AI, whether it's in the production with the music or to help with the songwriting.
Yeah, to facilitate.
To facilitate, right. To just kind of help bring the ideas along further. Mm-hmm. So
expedite the process.
Right, so I think definitely when there's a song being written for a particular artist, the song should still be written in mind for how the artist is going. Anytime you produce, the song needs to be produced in the way that where you know the artist is going to have to perform this live, you know, and comfortably. And any artist that gets into a studio should not, you know, I like pushing or challenging an artist to, you know, go outside of their comfort zone a little bit, but it still has to make sense, right? Because night after night, they're going to be the ones performing it, and they have to feel good about it. So AI to me is, of course, there's a lot of threat involved right now because there's no guardrails. Yeah, there's no protections right now. So that's what's making AI so scary, is because our government is not really moving as fast. The world and government, and you know, it's just not moving as fast to protect. But I'm definitely, I love what it's there for enhancements.
Totally.
You know, I think it's definitely, it's scary, you know, and the other thing about it is how it came at us, where it just was like, it popped up one day and it's like, it's learned how to, and everybody's like, well, how did that model learn? And it's now we are learning that these companies have just basically just
extracted data.
Correct. And so that's the part where it's unfair, you know, because now you're
that's
like,
the part
wow.
that needs regulating.
Of course.
The rights of usage of other things in order to create something that is stemming from something that was already created by a human.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, how can we regulate that?
Yes. And listen, there's a lot of great work that's being done right now with the Academy that is helping move this, you know, more to the forefront. Absolutely. So, you know, I think we just have to just keep pushing. And once we have those protections in place, I think people are going to allow themselves to be more open to using.
Absolutely. The fear will diminish.
Of course, because and especially if we can get to a place where people can get compensated, knowing that models were trained off of
something they made. Now we got deals in place.
Their voices, their the songwriting style.
But let's remember, there's always fear. Whenever there's a new technology, when there was radio, when there was piano rolls, when there was cassettes, when there was vinyl,
auto-tune. Instead, auto-tune was gonna get rid of the singers.
You know, then the internet, the file sharing, the Napster, and I mean, I just think of what you just said, and Napster, they were getting away with it for a long time before it caught up to them. So I feel like insofar as AI, you're right. It's a matter of ethics. It's a matter of legality. It's not so much a matter of technology. It's about guardrails and creating gardens, and figuring out how everybody is going to play with each other, what the interaction is going to be like. But there's always been fear.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree. Fear, and there's fear of the unknown. Everyone fears the unknown.
And that's all it is. It's like people are like, well, what's going to happen to us? Like, what's going to happen? And it's like, listen, like, it's going to be okay.
No one's replacing you.
Right.
No one's replacing you.
You can't replace, in the AI world also, you just can't replace the prompter. If you want to create something specific, it's going to create to the degree that you prompt it to.
But I'll tell you
so
what.
your prompt has, you still have to have a clear vision as to what you want to
I'll tell you what, but the next generation, there's going to be a whole career in AI prompting.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening already.
The AI prompting, you need to know how to prompt. That's a skill.
And what I think is cool, at least I've seen from producing, like I'm just coming out of a big production season, and I've worked with producers that are like, nah, I don't mess with AI, period. And I've worked with other producers that are like, no, I use it as a tool, and I'm in the same vein, think this in the same way as you. It is a tool. I think there should be some protections, but what I do find interesting is that when you have a very clear vision of what you're trying to accomplish, it can expedite the process. In, hey, I have this melody. Can you harmonize this for me in this style? Boom, you have it. And so in the songwriting process, maybe I'm gonna go in and track all of those harmonies, but at least I have them so that
as a reference.
The producer, as a reference, so the producer can hear it and know where I'm going with it before we have to just sit there and for an hour go ahead and track all those harmonies. So there's a lot of things in terms of time that I think.
There's a lot of positives. There's a lot of positives, and then I think until there's certain things that get addressed, AI is going in a really cool direction.
Yeah.
Okay, this was an amazing session. Thank you all so much for being here, for sharing your passion for Latin music, all your career and growth, and of course, your invaluable advice for the both of us. And I know that everyone will value it at home when watching it too.
We're living inspired to dream bigger, prepare better, ask smart questions, and better understand the business behind the music. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Yay!
No matter where you are in your career, there is always something new to learn. And so often, those moments happen when we connect, listen, and come together, as we just witnessed in our inspiring kickoff of our 2026 Leading Ladies of Entertainment Mentorship Program. At the heart of this program is the belief that mentorship is more than guidance. It is access, encouragement, and possibility. It is one generation of women reaching back, lifting up, and helping the next generation step forward with confidence. I, for one, can't wait to meet my mentee this year. A very special thank you to Open Society Foundations for helping us support this important work and for standing with us as we continue to create opportunities for the next generation of women in the entertainment industry. And to all of our aspiring Latin music creators watching today, please visit our website and explore all the educational opportunities available through the Latin Grammy Cultural Foundation. You never know where one opportunity, one mentor, or one conversation may lead. Thank you for joining us.